Hi, I'm here with Pete White, a former Ward 2 City Councilor for Pittsfield, Massachusetts. I'm here to interview you today because I, first off, have picked up on your Facebook post that you support shopping local. And I would like to talk to you about that in regards to sustainability. So, to start, do you want to talk to me about certain aspects of the community that you've been involved in that supports local shopping?
Yeah, Amanda, it's great being here with you today, and I'm happy that you're taking this class that I took when I was at BCC, and I really have picked up on the shopping locally because, being a former Ward 2 city councilor, I saw how important keeping our local businesses viable and shopping there creates more sustainability for Pittsfield because it provides local jobs. It also provides local resources. I would rather have a local hardware store to go to rather than having to travel further for something. When we support local businesses, we make sure that we keep local resources in our area so we can get the things we need, especially for like a neighborhood like ours, where people do not always have access to public transportation or they don't have access to cars. Having things more locally where they could walk to it or bike to it or a short drive to it, it's more sustainable for the entire environment and economy to cut down on travel time going to places, but also having the convenience of things locally. I've done a lot of work with the Morningside Neighborhood Initiative, revitalizing the neighborhood, and making sure we have strong local businesses is definitely part of that because the local businesses are the ones when someone holds a fundraiser or someone's looking to have an event, they're the ones who usually will donate gift cards. They'll support the local baseball team. When you go out and see like a little league team play or Babe Ruth, the names on the back of the uniforms are the local businesses that are providing the money to have those kids be able to play.
Right. And we were actually just having coffee at a local coffee shop before we started this interview, and to see the amount of people and politicians in and out of there to support that place.
I think when we were the local coffee shop that we were at, one of the reasons I go in there all the time is, besides the fact that it's local, convenient, there's good parking for it, they use locally roasted coffee beans. So you're not, the coffee beans come in, they're providing jobs right here in our community for the people roasting them, the people delivering them. They're not being roasted somewhere and then, left in a bag for years before they finally get to your coffee. So it makes the coffee taste better, but it's also, going back to that coffee shop provides jobs for our community, but they also provide gift cards when things are going on. If someone's having a local craft fair or something, they'll go and set up a table and sell their coffee there to bring more people in for the craft fair. So it's just keeping your money local, and you spend money locally and it stays in the community. You spend money at some big corporate place, and a lot of times that money just goes away. I would rather keep our money locally here in our community. That for your purposes, the sustainability of that is amazing. Locally spent dollars, I don't have the figures, but you spend more money locally, you keep more jobs here. You also show people that they can be successful having local jobs, local businesses here, and that the community will support them.
I think that I agree with everything that you have said, and I'm curious to know, what do you think that our community, or even on a bigger scale, what we would be looking at had we not had people shopping local? And there's always room for improvement, mind you, but
I think when people stop shopping locally, you see local businesses close up. You see less local businesses being able to pay into the tax structure. Right now the city taxes businesses higher than it taxes residential properties. So those business owners where, let's say there's 1,000 businesses in Pittsfield that pays taxes. And then there's the rest is made up through local property taxes on residential housing. There's like a 60-40 split there where the residential is paying 60 and the businesses are paying 40. If we don't support our local businesses, that dollar amount that residential pays is going to go up exponentially because there's not going to be those businesses to pay into the local scale. They're not going to be able to offset. And when you shop locally, you're making it so those businesses have the money they need to put it back into our community because we need those businesses to be successful if Pittsfield and Berkshire County is going to be successful. And I definitely mentioned Berkshire County and not just Pittsfield because we really need to look at this as the one Berkshire concept where we're part of a region. We're not just one isolated city. We need to make sure that the cities and towns around us are also sustainable. And, someone living in the hill towns can come to Pittsfield to get a job and be able to support their families and the tax structures in those smaller communities.
And this is a term we learned in class, actually, sustainable communities.
Yeah.
And this is what ultimately will make the difference in eliminating things such as global warming and not even eliminating, I don't even know if it's the point of no return. Reducing, thank you. Yeah. And one thing that you touched base on is people wouldn't have these jobs and how, it kind of has like this domino effect. A lot of other aspects of life, not just for humans, but for the environment as well, would be affected ultimately. The living systems concept.
Yeah, and going back to your question, what more can we do? We can put incentives in place that allow businesses to renovate existing structures so they don't have to go out and take more green space. We should leave the green space that we have green, in my opinion. We should leave the forest, we should leave fields, the different habitats for animals. Projects like the Beacon Cinema, where they took an old building and just added to it to make a theater in downtown Pittsfield, so they didn't have to go up and put a new structure. Or reusing the Pittsfield Economic Development Authority's William Stanley Business Park, which we all know is the old General Electric site. Being able to reuse property in different ways to be sustainable so we don't have to encroach anymore on our wildlife habitats. We need the trees. We need the plants to basically sustain our own lives, to make sure we have enough oxygen to breathe.
Right.
To reduce global warming, we also have to make sure that we're not continually cutting every tree down to pave over everything. There's the song that talks about they cut down all the trees to make parking lots, and then they charge $1 to see trees. We don't need to get to a point where, we're only going to be able to see trees, in museums or in pictures. We need to look at ways we can expand the local economy and have more business, have more places to live, but also, live within what we've already taken. We filled in so many swamps around here, and we see different problems with flooding and everything. It's because certain areas were never meant to be livable areas. And going back to GE, all the jobs used to be like concentrated in one place, so you had neighborhoods build up around these jobs. Now the jobs aren't there, but the neighborhoods still are. So you have some places where not enough parking, places where you had no driveway because before you would only walk 40 feet to go to work. We need to see what we can do to get more jobs into those places, but also, the city government, if anyone talks to Jim McGrath, who's the Parks and Open Space Manager for the city of Pittsfield, and also the Community Development Office, they look at ways to make Pittsfield a more walkable city. Walking friendly, making sure that between greenways there are places, so you could walk from wherever you live to the shopping district, or anything else you need is within a safe walkable area. So government, in my eyes, can foster opportunities for people to take on People always ask, what can the government do to create jobs? And I think the only thing government can do is provide the environment for jobs to be successful. Don't overtax them. If they're going to put money into a building, have tax incremental financing plans where you have somebody redo or renovate a building. Well, instead of charging them all the taxes in the first year on that redone building, on that renovated building, have it so those taxes are incrementally put in place. So you get the full taxes on the improvements, but it might be 7 to 10 years down the line, and you only charge a percentage each year towards that new tax. So it encourages people to renovate existing buildings so we can be sustainable. Not everything's being done new, but also so it gives incentives for companies to maybe add some green features, some eco-friendly features. We're seeing more and more done with solar panels in the area.
Over by Silver Lake, we've
got the Silver Lake
2 megawatts of solar energy,
and that's a great use of that space. It was a piece of land, a parcel of land that was odd shaped, so it would have been difficult to necessarily place a building on it. But for that, it's a perfect purpose. It gets sunlight. You also have the solar project going on at BCC. You have the solar project going on at the wastewater treatment facility plant down off Holmes Road. And there's plans in works for even using former dumps, garbage disposal sites. You can't do anything, you can't build on it, but you could put solar panels across the top of them and be able to reuse that space and make it so we're not so dependent on foreign oil. Another sustainable thing is, how can we have more things produced locally? And, paying other countries for our oil or starting wars, over access to that oil, it's just not sustainable. We need to have more like made in America. Or at least made on the continent.
Made in Berkshire County.
Made in Berkshire County would be great, but I'm even happy when I see a company like, I think it's American Giant, who's making like hoodies here in the United States. They're not, I wouldn't call them super affordable, but they're not unreasonable. They're still within a price where I would, think about going out and buying one. Just for the fact that all the labor was kept local. All the materials come from the United States, and the jobs are kept here in the United States. It's great that we're seeing a trend of more companies insourcing than outsourcing. We've seen that Apple is going to start producing a line of its computers in the United States again. We're seeing other companies that have never really outsourced doing it, and we're seeing companies not do it as a publicity stunt, but they're doing it because they're finding that keeping the production in the U.S. can actually be sustainable for them as well.
It's all very good things to hear, and I think that as our future generations come along, hopefully with all of this education and resources that we have, that they can continue on. The class we learned about the 7th generation principle and practicing those beliefs of our indigenous ancestors, and a lot of what you're talking about sounds a lot like those beliefs and principles, and I am happy to hear of all these things going on.
Yeah, if we want to get into what the Native Americans did, they were nomadic because they would move around based on where living would be most sustainable for the season that they were in. Instead of creating like fixed houses and communities in one place, they would move around because they know the land can't sustain long-term settlements in one place. And now that we've completely gone against, it's the same thing for migrating birds. It's great to be up north in the good weather, but they go south when the weather's bad. We've totally changed the way things are supposed to be, so we need to look at ways to be able to make it all work. And we definitely need to reverse the trends we're doing now because, global warming has become such a problem. It's December 15th, and I'm in a short sleeve shirt and barely need a jacket out today. And this is becoming the trend. It's harder for our ski areas to be sustainable because we're not seeing the weather like we used to. Even back when we were kids, by now we'd be seeing the snow. It wasn't just Bing Crosby talking about a white Christmas. Everyone would have a white Christmas.
Yeah, it's true.
If you lived in the Northeast, now it's really questionable whether or not we're going to be seeing green Christmases. And, it's going to take a lot to really reverse that trend, but we have to do something. And to me, having more local businesses, but also businesses that are, we talk about the coffee shop that we were at earlier. People going in and not necessarily getting a to-go cup or, a styrofoam container, but actually bringing their own coffee mugs in that can be washed at home and reused. And, finding ways to reuse more products. And, we need to, and this isn't just a local issue, but also, one of my big pet peeves is everything has so much packaging that is completely unneeded. It's like a lot of the stuff that I want to recycle isn't stuff that I needed to use, but it's, I bought a smoke detector and carbon monoxide detector. Well, it's a small little device, but it had like practically just as much plastic, being shipped in than it, had in it. So if we got more companies to look at sustainable practices of not having so much packaging going on, it would be great. And normally I wouldn't interrupt an interview, but Eric Brown from CET, he was just doing a class. If I could show this,
Sure.
I'm recording for my sustainability class an interview with Pete White.
This right here is a window insert that someone can learn to build by contacting the Center for Eco Technology, which we're lucky to have a local office right here on Elm Street. And you can put this in your window. It pulls out, it's got styrofoam on the outside of it.
Nice.
Instead of putting plastic on your window, you slide this in. If people who can't afford new windows can use something like this to, keep the cold out. So if you can't afford, a whole project of buying new windows, you can put something like this in and you're going to be more sustainable, you're going to be more comfortable, and you're going to be using less, whether it's electricity, oil, or gas to heat your home. So it's great that Eric stopped by to say hi to us.
Thank you. Do you want to say hi for the camera? You don't have to if you don't want to.
Hello, everyone. Good luck with things.
Yeah. And this is great, Eric, that you stopped by with us, because I know this is definitely a workshop that I've been looking at for a while, because this is one of the greatest ways to be sustainable in the Northeast, where we have so much old stock housing, and people are looking to replace windows. So,
And these are actually made. These frames are actually made right here in Pittsfield by Soldiering On. So
that's even better.
Really? Soldier On made
for
that?
veterans to do some wood projects.
Eric, if somebody wanted to get more information on something like this, where would they go?
They could just call me or send me an email. I'm at CET. You can call the direct line 413-445-4556. So call us at Elm Street and we can help you out.
All right, well, thanks a lot, Eric, and I'll definitely be in
Thank
touch
you.
with you about getting some of those from Soldier On.
Excellent. We're going to be doing some more Part 2 workshops here in the future, so
All right.
thanks for coming.
All right,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Eric.
Nice to meet you. All right. Wow.
So, and that's a great thing about being in a local community is, we're sitting here at the Berkshire Athenaeum, and we're getting to, see somebody, that's something that CET's been doing for a long time, helping with those windows. And there are so many small things, weatherproofing, getting a home energy audit through, I think it's Mass Save, which CET can put people in touch with, and they'll come in and they'll do the, replace your incandescent light bulbs, which we know are not energy efficient, with the CFL bulbs. And, people talk about the CFL bulbs not being sustainable because they have mercury in them. But if you can cut down on the amount of electricity that's used through the incandescent bulbs, you're actually putting less mercury into the air because a byproduct of making energy. a lot of times is putting mercury into our environment. So we're still cutting down on the mercury by using the CFL bulbs and using less electricity. And I know that was kind of like a total strange thing to have somebody walk in, but it fit.
It
In
did.
a community like this, there are so many resources at our fingertips to do so much.
Yes.
You know, when we were at the local coffee shop Dottie's, just all the people who walk in, so many people that you get to know and have information at their fingertips. That I think it makes me hopeful that we can have a more sustainable community for ourselves to live in. And as long as Berkshire Community College is still forward thinking enough to have classes on world sustainability, it's just amazing.
It is. Absolutely, I agree with you. I feel like it's a step in the right direction for creating a better world for all living systems. And I want to thank you for this interview. I
Anytime.
enjoyed all of your knowledge that you have shared, and I hope the class does too.
Well, I'm always happy to help out a fellow BCC student.
All right, as alumni yourself.
Yes.
Thanks.